الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن اهتدى بهداه أما بعد. In these next few classes, inshallah ta'ala, we'll be giving a concise and brief explanation of the excellent and concise text Shuroot al-Salaah wa arkanuha wa wajibatuha by Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab ibn Sulaiman al-Tamimi rahimahullah ta'ala, who passed away in the year 1206. And this text is a very nice and concise text, and it's excellent for the student of knowledge to begin with, because it gives an overall summary of the conditions of salah and the conditions of wudu and the pillars of salah and the invalidators of wudu and the obligatory actions of the salah. And once these are memorized, then more or less the whole salah is, clear to the Muslim. You become clear on the salah and exactly what I'm supposed to do and how I act in certain scenarios, what's required of me, what's not required of me. And the majority of questions that people constantly ask regarding the salah, this concise text, if memorized and understood well, if understood well, the main thing is that it's understood very well, then it answers most of the questions that people have. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The author says, rahimahullah ta'ala, Shuroot al-Salati tis'ah. The conditions for the prayer are 9. A condition is that thing which comes before the prayer. So the conditions of prayer are the things that are required to be there before prayer. They have to be there for the prayer to be valid, but they come before the prayer. Okay, they come before the prayer. So Surah al-Fatiha, for example, is not a condition of prayer, because Surah al-Fatiha doesn't come before the prayer. It happens during the prayer. So we'll see later on that Surah al-Fatiha is a pillar of the salah, not a condition. The conditions of salah are 9. Al-Islam wal-Aql wal-Tamiz. Islam. For your salah to be valid, you have to be a Muslim. Wal-Aql. Sanity. The person who is mentally disabled, insane, such a person is not held to account. Such a person is not held to account, and their salah is not valid. And therefore, for your salah to be valid, one of the conditions is sanity. Number 3, reaching the age of maturity. Reaching the age of maturity. Which is tamyiz. Reaching the age of tamyiz. We'll come to see what exactly tamyiz means. Number 4, وَرَفْعُ الْحَدَثِ وَإِزَالَةُ النَّجَاسَةِ. Lifting your impurity. Lifting your spiritual impurity, meaning wudu, essentially. Number 5 is removing impurity. Removing physical impurity. So the first was lifting your ritual impurity, making wudu. And number 4 was lifting your ritual impurity. And number 5 was removing the physical impurity. If you have blood, urine, and so on your clothes or on your body, that's removed. Number 6 was satr al-awrati wa dukhul al-waqt. Covering the awra is number 6. Number 7 is the entry of time. You can't pray before time starts. Number 8, facing the Qibla, and number 9, intention. These are the 9 pillars of Salah. Islam, sanity, reaching the age of tamyiz, lack of ritual impurity, removal of filth, removal of impurity, covering the awrah, entry of time, facing the Qibla, and the intention. The first condition, the author says, rahimahullah, after listing the conditions out in a general form, in a bullet-pointed form, he then afterwards goes through each of these conditions point by point, discussing them in a brief manner. So he says, الشرط الأول, the first condition, al-Islam, وضده الكفر. The opposite of Islam is disbelief. والكافر عمله مردود. The actions of the disbeliever are rejected. Of course, because for an act of worship to be valid, you need to be a Muslim first. For an act of worship to be valid, you need to be a Muslim first. وَلَا تُقْبَلُ الصَّلَاةُ إِلَّا مِنْ مُسْلِمٍ. Salah is not accepted except from the Muslim. وَالدَّلِيلُ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. The evidence for that is Allah's statement, and whoever takes up a religion other than Islam, then it will not be accepted from him. Meaning, his belief will not be accepted from him, and none of his actions will be accepted from him either. Your acts of worship will not be accepted either. وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. And on the day of judgment, such a person will be from amongst the losers. وَالْكَافِرُ عَمَلُهُ مَرْدُودٌ وَلَوْ عَمِلَ أَيَّ عَمَلٍ. The author says, the disbeliever's actions are rejected regardless of any act of worship they do. A disbeliever can fast, can give to charity, can perform hajj, can recite the Quran. None of that is accepted until he accepts Islam. And the evidence is وَالدَّلِيلُ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى مَا كَانَ لِلْمُشْرِكِينَ أَن يَعْمُرُوا مَسَاجِدَ اللَّهِ شَاهِدِينَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ بِالْكُفْرِ أُولَٰئِكَ حَبِطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُمْ وَفِي النَّارِ هُمْ خَالِدُونَ. The evidence for the fact that the disbeliever's actions are rejected, the author says rahimahullah ta'ala, it's Allah's statement, it is not for the polytheists to maintain the mosques of Allah while they witness against their own selves of disbelief. The works of such are in vain. The works of such are in vain. And وَفِي النَّارِ هُمْ خَالِدُونَ, and in the hellfire they abide in forever. So the point here is the statement of Allah, the works of such are in vain, meaning useless. The work of such are useless. Why? Because they don't testify La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. So if that condition is not there, actions are not valid. And also the statement of Allah, وَقَدِمْنَا إِلَى مَا عَمِلُوا مِنْ عَمَلٍ فَجَعَلْنَاهُ هَبَاءً مَنْثُورًا. We came to whatever deeds they did, i.e. the disbelievers, and we made them into scattered particles of dust, meaning we turned them into nothing. Yes, physically those deeds seemed like good deeds, however, because of their lacking the first condition of Islam, none of these actions were accepted. So that's condition number 1. الشرط الثاني, condition number 2, al-aql, sanity. وضده الجنون, and the opposite of sanity is obviously insanity, junun. والمجنون مرفوع عنه القلم حتى يفيق. The majnoon, the person who is insane, has the pen lifted from him until he regains sanity. Meaning, the recording of his deeds, the pen is lifted. The pen that records his deeds are lifted. Yeah, so he's not held to account. He's not held to account because the one who is insane isn't able to distinguish between good and bad, etc. So Allah doesn't hold such a person to account. والدليل حديث ورفع القلم عن ثلاثة النائم حتى يستيقظ والمجنون حتى يفيق والصغير حتى يبلغ. The evidence of this is the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, the pen is lifted from 3 people, meaning the pen of accountability is lifted from 3 people: a person sleeping until he wakes up, an insane person until he regains sanity, and a child until he reaches the age of puberty. These are the 3 categories of those who are not held to account. الشرط الثالث, the author says rahimahullah, the third condition, التمييز وضده الصغار وحده 7 سنين. The third condition is tamyiz. Now we need to distinguish between 3 phases within a person's life. The first phase is that which is before tamyiz, before the age of tamyiz, and that's from birth until the age of 7. Before the age of 7, a child is considered to not have tamyiz. He's not considered to have a valid intention, not considered to be able to distinguish between good and bad, etc. And this child, his actions are not considered valid. Okay, they're not considered valid. Why? Because of the lack of intention. A 4-year-old might, for example, a 3-year-old might, for example, pray outwardly. But because of their lack of intention, lack of understanding, there is no reward and validity to that action. Yes, the parents or guardians are rewarded for their teaching their child, but the child himself isn't rewarded because of the lack of maturity. However, once the child reaches the age of 7 and above, he's not reached the age of puberty yet, and so salah is not obligatory upon this person. But if this child was to pray, like an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old before the age of puberty, then this salah would be valid. This salah would be valid. Okay, so they would be rewarded for that prayer. ثُمَّ يُؤْمَرُ بِالصَّلَاةِ. After the age of 7, he is to be commanded to pray. And لقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم مروا أبناءكم بالصلاة ل7 واضربوهم عليها ل10 وفرقوا بينهم في المضاجع. This is from the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Command your children with salah at the age of 7, and beat them for it at the age of 10, and separate them and separate between them in their beds, meaning don't allow them to sleep in their beds together, in one bed together under a cover, under one cover at this age. Okay, so you command your child at the age of 7, and you start to be a bit strict with them at the age of 10, even if that requires a little, physical treatment within reason. Of course, we shouldn't have to repeat that it has to be within reason. Striking, hard hitting and hitting in the face, all of that is prohibited. Okay, but the point here is, it's time to be a bit strict, because if we're not strict with them now, when they do reach the age of puberty and salah is obligatory for them, they're going to really suffer, and they're not going to be able to get into the habit of praying, and they will ultimately be the ones that suffer. Okay, so there's no harm if it requires a bit of strictness and toughness with the child for them to pray at the age of 10, but not before that. Okay, you can't be hitting your child at the age of 7, 8, because they're not praying. No, that's the time to simply command them and tell them pray. Okay, so this is the third condition. The fourth condition, the author says, rahimahullah ta'ala, الشرط الرابع رفع الحدث, which is lifting ritual impurity. Ritual impurity, meaning physical impurity. You can't see that someone doesn't have wudu, can you? You can't look at somebody and say he doesn't have wudu. Yeah, because it's ritual, it's not physical. The fourth condition is that you lift this ritual impurity, and that is by making wudu. وَهُوَ الْوُضُوءُ الْمَعْرُوفُ, and that is the well-known wudu. Okay, and that's the well-known. And what makes wudu obligatory is hadath, ritual impurity. Any ritual impurity, we'll come to see what the various ritual impurities are. Okay, but when these ritual impurities occur, that's when wudu becomes obligatory. Otherwise, it's not obligatory. If you've made wudu and you've prayed dhuhr, you can pray asr also and maghrib and isha until a ritual impurity occurs to you, then wudu becomes obligatory. Okay. وَشُرُوتُهُ عَشَرَةٌ, and its conditions are 10, meaning the conditions of wudu are 10 conditions. The author says, rahimahullah ta'ala, الإسلام والعقل والتمييز والنية واستصحاب حكمها بأن لا ينوي قطعها حتى تتم الطهارة وانقطاع موجب واستنجاء أو استجمار قبله وطهورية ماء وإباحته وإزالة ما يمنع وصوله إلى البشرة ودخول وقت على من حدثه دائم لفرضه. These are the 10 conditions of wudu. The first condition is Islam. The second one is aql, sanity. The third is tamyiz, okay, reaching the age of maturity, the age of distinguishment, the age that a child is able to distinguish. And remember, we said that's the age of 7. So these 3 we've already spoken about. Number 4 is the intention, and number 5 is that the intention remains uncut, meaning you don't intend to invalidate your intention. You don't intend to stop your wudu. Okay? You don't intend to stop your wudu. You don't start. How does this work? For example, you don't intend to start making wudu. You say, you know what? Forget wudu now. Let me just wash my hair with shampoos. Let's sort out a quick shower or a head wash first. We'll think about wudu later. You've now cut off your wudu. Okay? You've cut off the intention for wudu. So not only do you need an intention at the beginning of wudu, you need to intend to be making wudu. You can't be in the swimming pool, swimming around and think, oh, you know what, that swimming session I had earlier, that can be my wudu. No, because you didn't intend to have wudu, to make wudu. So you need 2 intentions. One at the beginning, and the second one is more of a non-intention, meaning you don't intend to cut the intention. Okay, that's what number 5 is. وَانْقِطَاعُ مُوجِبٍ, that's number 6, and that is the cutting off of whatever causes ritual impurity. Whatever causes ritual impurity. So whatever makes wudu obligatory has to stop. Such as what? Such as using the bathroom. You can't be in the middle of urinating. Urinating, for example, requires wudu. Yeah, it's from the things that make wudu obligatory. You can't be in the middle of urinating and you say, you know what, to save time, let's continue this urination and also start making wudu at the same time to save time. No. You have to completely finish urinating, completely finish using the bathroom. Okay, then afterwards we can, and make istinja, then afterwards you can make wudu. So that is condition number 6. These are the conditions of wudu, remember. Sixth condition, like we said, is inqita'u mujibin. That the thing that causes wudu, the thing that obligates wudu has to stop, has to be ended first. Wastinja'un aw istijmarun qabla. Condition number 7 is cleaning the private parts, whether with istinja, which means using water, or istijmar, which means using, now in our days, tissue. In our days, tissue. Okay, and back then, stone. Okay, so using tissue, at least 3 wipes, ensuring that the privates are cleaned, that suffices. Or even better than that, using water. And even better than that is using tissue and then water. Using tissue and then water. This is a condition, meaning you can't use the bathroom, urinate or whatever else, then make wudu and then afterwards wash your privates. No, you have to wash your privates first. This does not mean you have to wash your privates every time you make wudu, as some people mistakenly understand. Or when you pass wind, you have to wash your privates. This is another common mistake. This is another common mistake. You do not have to wash your privates every time you make wudu. But when you do use the bathroom, when you do urinate, and then washing the privates becomes obligatory first before you make wudu. Okay? So that's condition number 7. وَطُهُورِيَّةُ مَاءٍ وَإِبَاحَتُهُ أو وَطَهُورِيَّةُ مَاءٍ وَإِبَاحَتُهُ. The water has to be pure and purifying. Water has to be pure. You can't be using juice, okay, or water mixed with soap, for example, that's changed, that's changed the water, or, tea, or other kind of things like that. The water has to be pure water, pure natural water. And number 8 is water that is permissible to use. Water that is permissible to use. So condition number 8 is water that is permissible to use. The following one is, what does this, before we move on, this point here of water that's permissible, meaning water that's not stolen, for example. According to the Hanbali madhab, you can't rob water and then go make wudu with it. This wudu is invalid, because it's stolen water. So for you, this wudu is not valid. وَإِزَالَةُ مَا يَمْنَعُ وُصُولَهُ إِلَى الْبَشَرَ. Also, removing that which prevents water from reaching your skin. Yeah. So this is number 9. Removing that which prevents water from reaching your skin. So condition number 9, before you make wudu, you have to remove anything that prevents water from reaching your skin, such as nail varnish. Now if you keep that nail varnish on, water is not going to get to your nails, and you have to wash your hands. And so the only way for water to touch your skin, your nails, is for that nail varnish to be removed. So this is a condition for women, that they have to remove this nail varnish first before they can make wudu. And anything else, same with certain types of material that's put on the hair, okay, like henna, when it's still freshly put on. This prevents you from the water from reaching the hair, and so it first needs to be removed, okay, and then a person can wipe over their head. If, however, you've got something on, like some cream or some other kind of oil that doesn't actually prevent water from reaching the skin, then there's no problem. You can keep that on and at the same time make wudu, and that's not a problem. Condition number 10, وَدُخُولُ وَقْتٍ عَلَى مَنْ حَدَثُهُ دَائِمٌ لِفَرْضِهِ. Condition number 10 is that the one whose impurity is constant, such as the one who has constant urination. It's an illness. They can't control their urine. Or constantly passing wind. Constant gas. Okay. Such a person is constantly losing their wudu. And therefore the scholars say they make wudu at the beginning of time, Once they've made wudu, they pray, and that wudu is valid for them until the next prayer. So now if a person has urine constantly coming from their privates, what's required of them is to make wudu. Okay, they make wudu. After, when do they make wudu? At the beginning of time. They wait for dhuhr to enter, for example. You can't make it before dhuhr. Dhuhr enters, make wudu. Then now you can do whatever you want until asr. You can pray a sunnah, you can pray. Let's imagine urine continues to come out. Not a problem. Not a problem. You continue to pray, you continue to do what you wish. Because you're excused. You're excused. However, you need to make wudu for every salah, and it needs to be once the time has entered. So دخول الوقت أو دخول وقت على من حدثه دائم لفضله. So once the time enters, that's when wudu for you is obligatory. Okay, that's when wudu for you is obligatory, and that's when wudu for you is permissible. It needs to be after the time has entered. These are the 10 conditions of wudu, and we're still in the 4th condition of salah, remember. So these 10 conditions are part of the 4th condition of salah. And the author then moves on to the obligatory, or the actions of wudu, or the pillars of wudu, and we will cover those next lesson inshaAllah ta'ala. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.